It's late at night. You pick up your phone, just for a minute. At least, that's what you tell yourself. You open one app. Then another. Then another. You keep scrolling. No plan. No purpose. Just moving. Minutes pass. Then more. And suddenly, you stop. You look at the time. Almost 1 hour is gone. You didn't plan this. You didn't want this. So you ask yourself, why did I do that? And for a moment, there is silence. Because you don't have a clear answer. The next day, you try again. You say, today will be different. I will control my time. But later that day, the same thing happens. A small notification. A quick check. And again, you are pulled in. Scrolling. Watching. Losing time. Not because you decided to, but because something inside you reacted. Fast. Automatic. And every time this happens, you tell yourself the same thing. Next time. I'll control it. But next time comes, and nothing changes. Same action. Same result. Again. So now, a deeper question starts to appear. If you really have control, then why is it so hard to use it? Why do you do things you didn't plan to do? Why do your actions feel automatic? Because here's the truth. You don't control your mind as much as you think. Most of your actions are not conscious decisions. They are patterns, triggers, habits your brain has learned and now repeats without asking you. You think you are choosing. But most of the time, you are just following. Following thoughts. Following urges. Following impulses. And the dangerous part is, it feels like control. It feels like you. But it's not always you. It's your brain running on autopilot. And once you see this, everything starts to change. Because now the question is not, how do I control my mind? The real question is, if your mind is already controlling you, then where does real control even exist? You're sitting with your phone, doing nothing. Just a normal moment. Suddenly, you open Instagram. No reason. No plan. You just open it. Then you stop for a second, and think, why did I open this? You don't remember deciding it. It just happened. Later, you sit to work. You tell yourself, now I will focus. You open your laptop. You start. But within seconds, you switch tabs. Check something else. Then something else. And again, you stop. And think, what am I doing? It feels strange. Like you are doing things, without choosing them. And that's exactly what is happening. Because before you say, I choose this, your brain has already decided. You just notice it later. Your brain is always active. Always predicting. Always choosing the fastest option. Based on your past. Your habits. Your patterns. It doesn't wait for you. It doesn't ask you. It just decides. Fast. Automatic. And then, you become aware of it. After it's already done. That's why it feels like control. Because you see the decision. But you don't see when it started. It started earlier. Inside your brain. Before you noticed it. Before you became aware. So you think, I chose this. But many times, your brain chose it first. And you just followed. Now think about this. If your brain is making decisions, before you are even aware of them, then how much control do you really have? How many of your actions are truly yours? And how many of them are already decided, before you even notice? Because once you see this clearly, everything changes. The problem is not distraction. The problem is not lack of focus. The real problem is, you are trying to control something that has already started. And that leads to the next question. If your brain decides first, then how do you take control back, before it's too late? It's morning. Your alarm rings. You open your eyes, and before you even think, your hand reaches for your phone. No decision. No plan. Just automatic. You unlock it. You start scrolling. One video, then another, then another. You don't even enjoy it that much. But you keep going. And before you realize, 30 minutes are gone. Now you feel rushed. A little annoyed. You tell yourself, I need to stop doing this. Tomorrow will be different. But the next day comes, and the same thing happens. Same alarm. Same phone. Same scrolling. Same result. At first, it feels like a mistake. But after a while, it becomes normal. This is just my habit. This is just how I am. But look closer. This is not who you are. This is a pattern. A loop your brain has learned. And now, it is running it every day. Automatically. Because your brain loves patterns. They are easy. They save energy. They don't require thinking. So once your brain learns something, it repeats it. Again. And again. Wake up phone. Feel bored scroll. Feel stressed avoid. Same trigger. Same action. Same result. And the more you repeat it, the stronger it becomes. Faster. Easier. More automatic. Until one day, you don't even notice it. It just happens. And you call it your routine. But here's the problem. This pattern is not just controlling your morning. It's controlling your day. The way you react. The way you think. The way you decide. Everything starts to follow patterns. And you don't question it. Because it feels normal. But normal doesn't mean right. It just means repeated. Now think about this. If your actions are just patterns, repeating again and again, then how much of your life are you actually choosing? And how much of it is just your brain running the same loop on autopilot? Because once you see this, you can't ignore it. The real question is not, why do I keep doing this? The real question is, how do you break a pattern that starts before you even notice it? You're sitting with someone, having a normal conversation. Everything feels fine. Then they say something small. Just one sentence. Nothing serious. But suddenly, your mood changes. You feel irritated. A little angry. You reply sharply. The moment shifts. Later, you think, why did I react like that? It was not a big deal. And you're right. It was not a big deal. But your reaction was big. So what happened? Because the reaction did not start in that moment. It started earlier. Much earlier. Inside you. That one sentence was just a trigger. Something small that activated something deeper. A memory. A past experience. A feeling you've had before. Maybe you felt disrespected before. Maybe you've been ignored before. And now, your brain connects this moment to that old feeling. And suddenly, your reaction becomes strong. Not because of what is happening now, but because of what happened before. This is how most reactions work. You are not reacting to the present moment. You are reacting to what it reminds you of. Someone raises their voice, you feel attacked. Someone stays quiet, you feel ignored. Someone disagrees, you feel disrespected. But maybe, none of that is actually happening. You don't know. But your brain decides anyway. Because it sees a pattern. It recognizes something familiar. And it reacts. Fast. Automatic. before you even think. And by the time you notice, you are already inside the reaction. Feeling it. Believing it. As if it is real. But many times, it is not about the present. It is about the past, repeating itself. And this is where things become clear. You are not just reacting to people. You are reacting to triggers. Invisible triggers. That activate old patterns. Old emotions. Old responses. And until you see those triggers, everything feels confusing. People feel unpredictable. Situations feel overwhelming. But once you start noticing this, everything begins to change. Because now you don't just see the reaction. You start seeing what caused it. And that leads to a deeper question. If every reaction has a trigger, how do you see it before it takes control of you? You're in a conversation, and everything feels normal. Then suddenly, someone says something. Just a small line. But something inside you shifts. Your chest tightens. Your face changes. And before you even think, you respond. Fast. Sharp. A little louder than before. The moment changes. Silence. Tension. Later, you replay it in your mind. Why did I say that? I didn't mean to react like that. But it already happened. So what really happened there? Did you choose that reaction? Or did it just take over? Because in that moment, it didn't feel like a choice. It felt automatic, and that's the truth. Most of your reactions are not choices. They are automatic responses. Your brain hears something, connects it to a past pattern, and sends a reaction instantly. No pause. No thinking. No awareness. And then, after it's done, you try to explain it. They were wrong. They started it. I had to say it. But that's not the full truth. Because the reaction didn't start there. It started before. Inside your brain. The moment you felt that trigger, the pattern was already active. And by the time you became aware, the reaction had already happened. That's why it feels like you lost control. Because you did. Not completely, but in that moment, you were not choosing. You were reacting. Following a pattern. Following a script your brain has used many times before. And the more you repeat it, the stronger it becomes. Faster. Harder to stop. Until one day, it feels like your personality. This is just how I am. But what if it's not? What if your reactions are not who you are, but just patterns you learned? Patterns you didn't choose, but keep repeating. And if that is true, then something important becomes possible. Because patterns can be changed, but only if you see them. Because right now, you are not choosing your reactions. You are following them. Automatically. Without even noticing. And that leads to a deeper question. If you are not choosing your reactions, then when do you actually choose? How to behave? You're about to reply to a message. You read it once. Then again. Something inside you reacts. A small tension. A quick thought. You feel the urge to reply immediately. To explain. To defend. To say something back. Your fingers move. You start typing. But pause for a second. Right before you send that message, there is a moment. A very small moment. So small, you almost never notice it. A gap. Between what you feel and what you do next. It's always there. Every time. But most of the time, you miss it. Because your brain moves fast. Faster than your awareness. The thought appears, the emotion rises. The action follows. And just like that, the gap is gone. You've already reacted. Again. But if you slow down, just a little, you will start to see it. That reaction was not instant. There was a space. A pause. Where nothing had happened yet. Where you had not replied yet. And in that space, you had a choice. But you didn't see it. Because your brain filled it. With urgency. With noise. With thoughts. Reply now. Say something. Don't stay quiet. And you followed it. Automatically. This is why it feels like you have no control. Because by the time you notice, the reaction is already done. But control does exist. It just doesn't exist where you think. It does not exist after the reaction. It exists before it. Inside that gap. That small moment, where you can either react, or pause. And that changes everything. Because if you can see that gap, you can slow things down. You can step back. You can choose differently. But this is where it becomes difficult. Because staying in that gap feels uncomfortable. There is no habit to follow. No automatic response. No clear answer. Just silence. And a decision. And most people avoid that moment. They rush past it, back into the pattern. Back into automatic reactions. Because it feels easier. But if that gap is the only place where control exists, and you keep missing it, then something becomes clear. You are not out of control. You are just not aware of the only moment where control is possible. And that leads to the next question. If the gap is where control exists, how do you stay in it long enough to actually use it? You're in the same moment again. A message appears. You read it. Something inside you reacts. A thought forms. An emotion rises. And right after that, comes the urge. To reply fast. To prove your point. To say something back. It feels strong. Almost automatic. But this time, you notice something. That small gap. That tiny pause, between what you feel, and what you are about to do. And for a second, everything slows down. You can see the thought forming. You can feel the emotion building. You can sense the reaction, before it happens. And now, you have a choice. A simple one. Do you react the same way, or do something different? This is the moment most people avoid. Not because they don't understand it, but because it feels uncomfortable. There is no script. No pattern to follow. No automatic answer. Just you, and a decision. And your brain doesn't like that. It wants speed. It wants certainty. It wants the familiar reaction. So it pushes you. Reply now. Don't stay quiet. Say what you always say. And if you follow that voice, nothing changes. Same reaction. Same result. Again. But if you don't, if you stay in that moment, something different happens. You break the pattern. Even if it's small. Even if it's just once. It matters. Because every time you choose differently, you weaken the old pattern. And the more you do that, the less control it has over you. But here's the hard part. Choosing differently feels wrong at first. It feels slow. It feels unnatural. Almost like you are going against yourself. And in a way, you are. You are going against the version of you your brain has been repeating. And that creates discomfort. Doubt. Resistance. But that discomfort is not a problem. It's a sign. A sign that something is changing, that you are no longer reacting automatically. That you are starting to take control. But even this is not enough. Because breaking one reaction doesn't remove the pattern. It is still there. Waiting. Ready to come back. And that leads to the next question. If patterns don't disappear instantly, how do you stop them? from taking over again next time. You decide, next time, I won't react like this. You feel sure. You feel ready. You believe, this time will be different. Then the moment comes again. Same situation. Same trigger. Same feeling. For a second, you remember your promise. You try to stay calm. But suddenly, the reaction comes back. Fast. Automatic. Stronger than your intention. And again, you do the same thing. Later, you feel frustrated. Why did I do that again? I knew this would happen. So what went wrong? You tried to stop the pattern. But you didn't replace it. And your brain doesn't work like that. It doesn't like empty space. If you remove a reaction, and don't give it a new one, it goes back to the old. Because that's what it knows. That's what it has practiced. Again and again. Think about it. If every time you feel triggered, you react in the same way, your brain learns it. It becomes faster. Easier. More automatic. So when you try to stop it, your brain pulls you back. To what feels familiar. To what feels easy. And that's why willpower alone fails. Because you are fighting a pattern, without creating a new one. But real change works differently. You don't just stop. You replace. You create a new response. A different action. Something small, but different. Maybe you pause. Maybe you stay silent. Maybe you breathe. Anything that breaks the old flow. And then, you repeat it. Again. And again. And again. Until it becomes natural. Until your brain learns it. Just like it learned the old one. At first, it feels hard. Slow. Uncomfortable. Because your brain is still wired for the old pattern. But slowly, something shifts. The new response becomes easier. The old one becomes weaker. And over time, you don't have to force it. It starts to happen automatically, and that is when real control begins. Not when you try once, but when you repeat enough. But even after you start changing patterns, there is still one problem left. Because your brain still wants one thing. To keep you safe. And sometimes, that safety keeps you stuck. Which leads to the next question. If your brain is trying to protect you, how do you know when to listen to it, and when to ignore it? You are about to do something new. You open your phone, ready to post something. You write it. You read it again. Everything looks fine. But right before you hit post, something stops you. A small voice. What will people think? What if this is wrong? What if this fails? You pause. You hesitate. And slowly, you close the app. Not now. Maybe later. And just like that, the moment is gone. Nothing happened. But inside, something did. Because that was not just a thought. That was your brain protecting you. Protecting you from embarrassment. From rejection. From discomfort. And it feels right. It feels logical. It feels like a smart decision. But look closer. That same voice, that protects you, also limits you. It stops you from trying. It stops you from speaking. It stops you from changing. And the worst part? It feels like your own choice. I'm not ready. This is not the right time. I'll do it later. But most of the time, that's not clarity. That's fear. Hidden inside logic. Your brain is very smart. It doesn't force you. It doesn't shout. It whispers. Just enough to pull you back. Back to comfort. Back to what feels safe. Back to the same patterns, and if you keep listening to it, your life becomes smaller. More predictable. more controlled, but also more limited. Because growth doesn't happen in safety. It happens in discomfort. In moments where you are not sure. In moments your brain tries to avoid. And now, you are standing between two choices. One feels safe. One leads to growth. And you can't choose both. If you choose safety, you stay the same. If you choose growth, you feel uncomfortable. And this is where most people stop. They choose comfort. Again. And again. Until it becomes their life. But once you see this clearly, you can't ignore it. Because now the question changes. It is no longer, is this safe? The real question becomes, is this helping me grow, or just keeping me comfortable? And once you start asking that, everything begins to shift. Because now, you are not blindly following your mind. You are questioning it. And that is where real change begins. But even this leads to one final realization. Because understanding your mind is not the same as controlling it. And that leads to the final question. Now that you can see how your mind works, will you keep following it? Or will you finally take control? Right now, everything feels clear. You understand your patterns. You see your reactions. You know how your mind works. It all makes sense. But here's the truth, understanding is easy. Change is not. You can watch this entire video, agree with every word, and still, wake up tomorrow, and do the same things again. Same habits. Same reactions. Same patterns. Because your mind does not change with knowledge. It changes in moments. Real moments. When something triggers you. When your brain reacts. When the pattern starts again. That moment is where everything is decided. Not here, not while you're watching. But there. In real life. When it actually happens. Do you pause, or react? Do you stay aware, or fall back? Do you choose differently, or repeat the same pattern? And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people already know all this. But they don't change. Not because they can't, but because they don't act, in that one moment. They understand, but they don't apply. They watch, but they don't change. And slowly, they go back. Back to autopilot. Back to old habits. Back to the same life. And nothing shifts. But now, you are in a different position. You've seen it. You understand it. You can't say, I didn't know. Because now you do. Which means, you've lost your excuse. And this is where it becomes real. Because now, it's on you. Not your mind. Not your past. Not your habits. You. Every reaction. Every decision. Every moment. You either follow the pattern, or you break it. There is no middle. And it doesn't happen once. It happens again, and again, and again. Until something changes. So the next time, you feel that urge, that reaction, that automatic pull, remember this. There is a gap. A small moment, where you can choose. And that moment, can change your life, if you use it. And if this made you see something new, if it made you question your own mind, then don't stop here. Because this is just the beginning. There is more to understand. More to change. More to control. So don't just watch, stay connected. Because the more you see, the more control you get. And now the final question is not about your mind, it's about you. Will you go back to autopilot, or will you finally take control?